concert ended. The crowd went wild. But backstage, Bob Marley said nothing. No one talks about what happened in those rooms after the lights went out. The cameras didn't follow him there. The microphones were off. And in that silence, something else began to emerge. He would come down from the stage and sit alone. He didn't celebrate. He didn't talk. He just sat. His band was in the next room, laughing, still buzzing with adrenaline, still hearing the echo of 50,000 voices. But Bob was somewhere else. He seemed lost in dreams. His eyes were open, but he wasn't looking at anything. He was looking beyond what he could see. He seemed like a drifter. People assumed he was meditating. They assumed he was spiritual, detached from the world, at peace. But those close enough to him saw something different. They saw exhaustion. Not the kind of exhaustion that passes with sleep. The kind that lives in your chest and never leaves. He performed every concert as if it were his last. He lived every moment intensely. Not because he wanted to, because he felt that way. The weight of so many people wanting him to be more than human. More than exhaustion. More than human. He was a symbol. And symbols cannot rest. After every show, there's a moment when the applause stops and you're left alone with yourself. For most artists, this moment is a relief. For Bob Marley, it was the hardest part of the night, because in the silence, he could no longer play a role. He couldn't manage to smile. He couldn't express his feelings by singing. His manager once said Bob would stare at his hands for minutes at a time. Just stare, like he didn't recognize them, like they belonged to someone else, someone stronger, someone who hadn't already given everything and was being asked for more. He never complained. That's what made it worse. He never said he was tired, never said he needed a break. He just kept going, kept writing, kept performing, kept carrying a movement that was bigger than his body could handle. The world saw a warrior. Backstage, his friends saw a man who could barely lift his head some nights. A man who would sit in the corner of a dressing room and smoke in silence while everyone around him celebrated. They thought he was being humble. He wasn't. He was just too tired to fake joy. There were nights he would finish a show and go straight to his room. No after party, no conversation, just him and the four walls. And in those rooms, he would lie on the floor and breathe. Just breathe. Like he was trying to remember how. The people closest to him noticed patterns. After big shows, after the ones that mattered most, he would disappear. Sometimes for hours. They'd find him sitting in stairwells, in empty corridors, in places where no one would think to look. He wasn't hiding. He was escaping. Escaping the version of himself everyone expected him to be. A sound engineer from the European tour said Bob would sometimes stand in front of the mirror and just look. Not fix his hair. Not check his appearance. Just look. Like he was searching for something in his own reflection that he couldn't find anymore. He wrote Redemption Song in one of those rooms. Not in a studio. Not surrounded by instruments. Alone. On a floor. In the dark. The song everyone thinks is about freedom was written by a man who didn't feel free at all. The lyrics came from a place most people never saw. A place where the cheers had faded and the mission felt heavier than muscle and bone could bear. He sang about emancipation while sitting in a prison of his own making. A prison built from expectations, from purpose, from the belief that stopping meant failing everyone who believed in him. He was not angry at the world. He was tired of carrying it. Every interview, every photo, every handshake was a performance. And performances take something from you, piece by piece, smile by smile. until you're not sure what's left when the mask comes off. His children would later say he was distant, not cold, just far away. Like part of him was always on that stage, always in that song, always somewhere else. They loved him, but they never fully had him. No one did. There's a story from a tour stop in Germany. The show had been massive, standing ovations, encores, the kind of night that makes careers. Afterward, everyone went to celebrate. Bob said he'd join them later. He never showed up. A roadie found him hours later sitting on the tour bus, alone. The lights were off. He was staring out the window at nothing. When asked if he was okay, Bob just nodded. Didn't say a word. Just nodded. That happened more than once. More than people realized. The pattern was always the same. Big show. Big energy. Big silence afterward. Like every ounce of light he gave on stage left him darker when he came off. There's a photograph from 1979. Bob is sitting alone in a hallway. The concert just ended. His guitar is on the floor beside him. His head is down. His shoulders are curved inward. He looks small. Smaller than anyone ever saw him on stage. The photographer said he didn't even notice the camera. He was too deep inside himself to care. That photograph was never published. It didn't fit the image. It didn't sell records. It didn't inspire revolution. So, it stayed hidden. Like so much of what Bob Marley actually felt. People who worked with him said he had two faces, the stage face and the after face. The stage face was electric, alive, untouchable. The after face was something else entirely. Hollow, quiet. Like someone had unplugged him and forgot to turn him back on. He told a friend once that the hardest part of his life wasn't the struggle. It was the success. Because struggle had a purpose. Success just had expectations. And expectations don't end. They multiply. They follow you into every room, every conversation, every quiet moment you try to steal for yourself. By the late 70s, the cracks were showing. Not publicly, never publicly, but in hotel rooms, in buses, in moments between sound checks when he thought no one was watching. He would close his eyes and press his palms against his temples like he was trying to hold something inside that wanted to break out. A backup singer said she once saw him cry. Just once. It was after a show in London. He was sitting in the dressing room. Everyone had left. She came back for something she forgot. And there he was, head in his hands, shoulders shaking. She didn't say anything, didn't ask. She just left. Because some pain is too private to witness. He rarely talked about his body, rarely acknowledged when it hurt. But those close to him could see it. The way he'd wince getting off stage. The way he'd favor one leg. The way he'd grip the edge of a table just to stand up straight. He was breaking down, and he knew it. But stopping felt impossible. By 1980, his body was failing. But he kept touring, kept performing, because stopping felt like surrender. And surrender felt like betrayal. Not to his fans, to himself, to the idea of what he was supposed to be. The band started noticing he'd forget lyrics. Not often, but enough. Songs he'd sung 1,000 times would suddenly go blank. He'd cover it, improvise, make it look intentional. But they knew. They saw the panic in his eyes for just a second before he found his way back. The final show was in Pittsburgh. He could barely stand. His band begged him to cancel. He refused. He walked on stage. He sang. He gave everything he had left. And when he walked off, he collapsed. Not dramatically, quietly. Like his body had been asking permission to stop for years, and finally got it. In the hospital, he didn't talk much. Visitors would come, friends, family, band members. They'd try to lift his spirits, remind him of all the good he'd done, all the lives he'd touched. He'd smile, nod, but his eyes told a different story. They looked tired. Not just physically, tired in a way that sleep couldn't fix. There's a nurse who said Bob would stare at the ceiling for hours. She'd ask if he needed anything. He'd say no, but he'd keep staring, like he was watching something no one else could see, like he was already somewhere else. In the months that followed, he didn't talk about regret. He didn't talk about what he wished he'd done differently. He just got quieter, like he'd already said everything he needed to say. And now he was waiting. The tributes came later, the documentaries, the legends. The world celebrated him, built statues, wrote essays, turned him into an icon. But none of them asked the question that mattered. None of them asked what it costs to be everyone's hope when you're struggling to find your own. None of them asked what happens in the silent hours when the mission is over, but your heart is still racing. None of them asked who takes care of the person who takes care of the world. What does it feel like to walk off stage knowing you gave everything and still feel empty? What does it feel like to be celebrated everywhere except in the mirror? And when the music stops, when the lights go dark and the rooms go quiet, who are you when no one needs you to be anyone at all?